Welcome to Messy Business, the podcast for solo business owners who are brilliant at what they do, but sometimes feel like things are a bit of a mess. I'm Libby Langley, business therapist, author, and your practical voice of calm in the chaos of working for yourself. Each week, I'll help you make sense of the mess so you can build a business that actually feels like you. Here's this week's episode. Right, you know that feeling when you're still running your business the way you did 3 years ago, but you're not that person anymore? This episode is for you. You've changed, your energy's changed, your priorities have changed, but your business hasn't caught up yet. So what this episode is about recognizing when your way of working no longer fits who you are and how to realign it without throwing everything out of the window, because I know that really that's what you want to do. You just want to go, for God's sake, just gotta start it all again. But you don't need to, right? Okay, good. So I'm Libby Langley. I am your business therapist for today. Relax. It's all going to be okay. I want to go through some telltale signs that you've maybe outgrown your way of working. So the structure that once felt freeing now feels restricted. You dread calls that used to energize you. You've outgrown your clients, your habits, or even your own systems. You keep pushing through, but it's because it still looks successful, right? Might still be generating you absolutely all the money that you want, but inside it's draining. So these are the red flags that your old way of working no longer matches who you are now. Let's talk through those in a bit more detail. The structure that once felt freeing now feels restrictive. So perhaps this is to do with the hours that you work. You know, maybe you said, do you know what? I'm going to be really strict on things and I'm going to set up a Calendly link that people have to use to book calls with me. Okay, cool. But is the availability of those calls, does it still work for you? Are you still doing calls every day or still allowing people to book calls every day? That can be really restrictive. You know, the freedom of setting your own hours is great, but not if you just set yourself a 9 to 5. Not so freeing, right? And maybe something about the calls that you do doesn't work for you anymore. Perhaps you're doing an absolute ton of discovery calls, so people can book calls with you to find out a bit more about working with you and what it's like. That's quite restrictive to keep doing that because it's time and it's energy and it's resource, right? Your own time, energy and resource. Maybe you could change that structure so that actually all the information is about working with you is freely available. Maybe you've got a podcast where people can work out whether they like you or not, or whether they would want to work with you or not. Or maybe you do paid calls instead of free calls, and then that amount is discounted off when they join your program or they work with you. That's what I've started to do. I don't do free discovery calls anymore because, I don't know, they started to feel a bit... people weren't time wasting. If you've had a discovery call with me along the way, then I'm never accusing you of time wasting. But and so many people who've had calls with me go on to work with me. But it's not that. It's just like, I think it's something about the intention of the call, and this is what you need to reflect on too, right? Is what's the intention of a call? A free call's great because you go into it with no expectation on either part, but surely some kind of expectation or some kind of outcome is better for both parties, right? And for me, I really like helping people and being able to deliver specific solutions. And so I've always find it quite hard to not do that in free calls, because this is what I do, right? I'm a problem solver, I'm a helper, I'm a guide, and sort of just having a chat. No, I don't like coffee chats. I don't like things like that. I don't like small talk. So in order to be able to actually deliver stuff, it's like, right, okay, let's make an agreement. You pay me for the time because I'm going to deliver you some big ass results in this call, some big light bulb moments, right? Bosh. And then if you want to go on to work with me further, I'll knock the cost of this session off the price. That seems like a fair deal, right? So that might resonate with you. Because certainly I felt I'd outgrown the whole discovery call thing. I don't know, it feels a bit 2022 as well, really. I think being respectful of people's time and paying for it is fine. I mean, obviously, if there's questions, right, send an email, send a DM. That absolutely plenty of time to talk to through those things. But I don't know, I need to safeguard my energy more than I used to. I think perhaps there's lots of other things going on in life, like my ongoing house renovations, that mean that I don't have the capacity, and quite honestly can't necessarily quite guarantee that I'm not going to have a building crisis at any time. So I've got to be much more selective about allowing people into my diary. And that isn't to be a dick about stuff, that at all. It's just, it's how it needs to be. So yes, I have absolutely outgrown the way of working. So maybe you have too. And if you do have a kind of dread around calls that energizes you, that is a sure sign you've got to change something. You don't want to be going into any calls that you dread. Absolutely not, because this is your business. It's for freedom. It's for joy. Yeah. So you don't want to do that. And maybe you've got systems, maybe you've got clients as well, habits or systems that don't work for you anymore. And I think there was absolutely a phase where we all overcomplicated everything, probably around COVID times, because that was the real advent, the real boom of online courses, online programs and all of this. And so we all went hell for leather, right? everybody had a download, everybody had at least one lead magnet. Everybody had a funnel. Everybody had this element and that element and the other element and maybe a short course and maybe this and that. And it's like, whoa, okay, now. And now I think that the world is a much heavier place. 2025 has been a heavy year. For division, for the political landscape over here and in the States and all of this stuff. It's all felt kind of quite heavy, right? So 2025 absolutely needs to be a year for simplification, and that means doing less. So look at the systems in your business and look at the processes and look at your funnel and look at your whole ecosystem, and just, if anything's like, oh my God, get rid of it. You won't need it. There's a real move towards simplification. And honestly, that's like, right, paying for a service, upgrading to a bigger service, maybe you're trying a free thing first, but just like take away the noise. And you need to take away your own noise. Yeah. As ChatGPT says so often, it needs to cut through the noise. But actually, my husband, who does not use ChatGPT, he actually said that in a sentence. He said about cutting through the noise. And I looked at him I'm like, do people actually say that? It turns out that they do, and because he does. So there you go. Who knew? And I think one thing really is to keep pushing through because it still looks successful. That's really hard, right? And a lot of that boils down to the money that you're making. If you're generating enough or half decent income or even an absolute ton of income, then this on paper is very successful, but it's got to feel right for you. That's so much more important, that I would say, that it's got to feel right, that you've got to be happy, that it's got to be joy-led. All these things matter more than the income you bring. Because if you want to earn a load of money but be miserable, get a job where you also get sick pay and a pension, for sure. So look out for the red flags around your own business and what's working and what isn't working, right? And I want to say really clearly to you that none of this is failure, right? It's all about growth. When you've outgrown the way you work is the title of this episode, because it is about you changing, the world changing, and you shifting within that. And I don't know, maybe you're perimenopausal, angry Generation X, whatever. Then that this is the Phoenix era of just rising up and doing things that you really want to do. And I just think that's so important. And because outgrowing your own business model, it's not a problem, right? It's proof of evolution. And you don't stick with the same thing, right? It's like, we used to wear heels and suits to work, and now it's jeans and trainers, and, it's just different. It's because everything about you changes. Your body changes, your mind changes, your outlook changes, your capacity for giving any fucks has changed, all of this thing. And you've gathered skills along the way, an absolute ton of skills. You think of what you've learned in the last 5 years, right? It's absolutely mind-blowing, all the little things that you've learned within your business. It doesn't mean you need to action them all, right? But you've gathered all these skills. You've gathered a load of confidence in the things that you do now, just as a matter of course. And also clarity, I think, since you started your business. You know much more clearly now what you want because you've tried things along the way. But the problem is that your business hasn't evolved alongside you, right? You've changed perhaps beyond all recognition from when you started your business. I mean, I certainly have. Flipping heck, it's 14 years since I started my business. So I'm absolutely not the same person. I do not have the same husband. I've lived in 4 houses since then, this is the fifth house since then. Hold on. Fourth or fifth. I don't know. I still can't do the maths. Since then. But, there's lots of change, right? And, you're literally living in a house built for a version of you that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah? And that's what isn't kind of recognized, I think, so often. You see all this stuff on social media. And honestly, I'm just so tired of it now. It's like, you're the problem. This is how you fix it. You're the problem. This is how you'll fix it. You're the problem. This is how you'll fix it. That's what the narrative is. And it's just bollocks because you're not the problem at all. You're utterly brilliant at what you do. Your head's a bit scatty sometimes and the way you do things is a bit messy and all of that is cool, right? You are absolutely not the problem. It's this kind of cage or house that you've built for yourself that is. That's what needs changing. You do not need changing, yeah? You're like the beautiful gift inside the Kinder egg. It's the outer shell that isn't right. So never, ever, ever think that you're that you're the problem. The things that you can do to kind of to notice what still feels good versus what feels heavy or a bit off or whatever. Do an honest audit of everything that you're doing. Take note of every single action that you're doing in your business and note down what lights you up and what doesn't. What's like walking through mud and what's like, oh my God, this is so energizing and exciting. And see what you can cut out. There are certain things that I do that I'm just like, I hate everything about this. And one of those things is creating visuals for Instagram. I just find it so mind-numbingly boring now. It's funny. I used to really like doing it, and some graphics I do really enjoy. I love a rabbit hole into Canva. Don't get me wrong, but there's something about the consistency of sharing the graphics that I'm just like, oh my God. However, you have to have some kind of imagery on Instagram, so it's something that I don't really enjoy, but has a specific purpose. And so I'm okay with that. And that's how you can do your audit, right? Things that you love doing, things that you don't really like doing but need to be done, and then things that you love doing. There's 3 categories there. And don't overthink this, right? Your body knows before your brain does. So you'll have a feeling in your gut and just put those things in one of the 3 columns. And it really isn't about burning everything down. Please don't do that. That's, if I manage not to do that, then I'm sure you can manage not to do that. It's okay to edit and to tweak, right? Sometimes we do really want to scrap everything. And I have done over the years. I've just stopped offering things. And now I really can see how completely stopping and starting again is just so much more hard work than refocusing. Like recently, I've rebranded this podcast, right? If you've been here since the beginning, you'll know that it was life in business to start with for ages, 2.5 years or something. And then it was unstuck for probably only 6 months, to be honest. Now it's messy business. And I could have just scrapped it. There've been times when I've thought, and I love this podcast. You'll know I love this podcast if you listen to it. I really find it fun. But there's times when I have thought, oh, this doesn't feel right. And rather than scrap it and stop it, I've looked at what isn't quite right and I've realigned it. Be that with a rebrand, be that with a slight episode focus shift and all of those things, and bringing the fun back into it again, because this stuff's got to be fun, right? So you don't need to burn everything down. You absolutely don't. And the same as with the podcast is with my program. I am a great one for running something for a year or for 6 months and then never doing it again. I can think of so many things. But particularly kind of my in-person mastermind days that I did some in 2024. For the first part of 2024, 2025, I did some. And then I don't have the steam to carry them on. So it tells you that that it's not right if you feel like that. And I know that I have felt like that. But my program, which is now called Reboot Camp, absolutely has stood the test of time because it's a model that suits me and it's a model that suits the people in it. It was originally called Confidence to Grow. Then it became Unstuck Community and then Unstuck Sanctuary. Don't ask me what I was thinking with that. And now it's Reboot Camp, right? And, I had a message just this morning from one of the people in that. So, I think you know this already, but I want to tell you how much I get out of working with you, no matter what you name it. This was an email I sent about the rebrand. I really do appreciate all the calls. I never regret taking the time to attend a call, and it really pushes me forward in my business. I feel supported. I find you have a no-nonsense approach to business that I lack, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what really matters to me. It's getting messages like that from my clients. And that's what really lights me up. So it shows me that burning everything down is not needed, right? And I want you to take the same approach in your business. Identify the friction points that are costing you energy, or where something is slightly misaligned. And it might just be the name. But like that email from my client says, whatever you call it, it doesn't really matter as much to the people, to your clients, what you call something. It matters to you because you need to feel aligned with it. And also it matters in terms of kind of marketing, right? So it matters for new people. Not so much what the name is, but how it's described, right? So these things do need to align, but often it's kind of just a tweak. So think of those three, think of the things that you do and think of those three, no, I hate this. I don't need to do it. I don't massively enjoy this, but it needs doing. And yes, this is joyful. And put things in that and see which are the things that you can stop doing, because that will make a big difference. And when you've spotted these misalignments, I want you to start experimenting. Have some fun with it all again, yeah? Start off, restart your voyage of discovery. Like when you first started the business, it was like, woo. And when you added all those extra things in during COVID, yeah? It was fun and exciting at the time, because new stuff is fun and exciting for those of us with these messy ADHD brains. It is. It's just when you're like, oh, shit, I've got 23 plates I'm now trying to juggle. It was really fun creating them, but I do not know what's going on anymore, how any of this fits together. And that's certainly where I'd got to, right? But start experimenting. Shift your working hours, maybe. Simplify your offers, or change how you communicate with your clients. Nobody says you have to do Zoom, right? Nobody says that. If you want to do everything by voice notes in WhatsApp, you do everything by voice notes in WhatsApp. You can do anything any way you like. You can service all your clients by voice note in WhatsApp while you're lying in bed. Who cares? As long as you are delivering on what people are paying you for and the result that you promise. Doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter anymore. We all went very Zoom heavy again during COVID. And so that's, doesn't have to be like that. I mean, I do work on Zoom. So, but you don't have to, right? You know, I have 2 Zoom calls a week in my program in Reboot Camp, and there's a WhatsApp group the rest of the time. And that's a really nice balance. But I have recently stopped doing Zoom networking because I don't like being put in a Zoom room. I don't like not knowing who I'm going to be talking to. I do a lot of networking, and I like in-person networking. I like being in a physical room with people, being able to see, I don't know, what people are wearing, and kind of, because I'm autistic, I like to be kind of on the sidelines and assess and then pick out what I'm going to say and to who. And I find that really, it doesn't work in a Zoom room for me. So, you know, I've stopped doing it. And I may come back to Zoom networking for sure, but for the moment, there's just too much else going on for me to be able to have that, the energy that takes, right? And you get to make all these choices, and that no one is right or wrong, yeah? You can try small tweaks before doing a massive mega overhaul, right? You can test stuff, you don't need to tear it up at all. The goal is to rebuild your rhythm around who you are now, not who you used to be. And also not who you want to be. I'd love to be like super polished and shiny and and I'm just never going to be. And I can't be bothered to even pretend that I'm ever going to be there anymore. Hence, messy business. So, you know, and not who you used to be. Yeah? That's really, really important. Be respectful of who you are now and lean into who you are now. Because it's easy to leap straight into doing, but pause first, yeah? Space gives you perspective. And if you do this honest audit of the 3, hate that, not, nah, but needs doing, or yes, that will give you the perspective, right? Because often once you slow down, the next right move becomes obvious, and it's often far simpler than you thought. So when you think, do you know what? I don't know what's going on anymore. It's probably because you've outgrown the way you work. It's very, very unlikely to be because you're shit at what you do, because you're not, right? You've got this far. You've had paying clients who are happy, and it's just that something kind of doesn't maybe feel right sometimes. That's all it is. And that is fixable. So this is your permission to change the how, not the who. That's what I'm giving you today. All right. Little exercise for you there. I like to give you some reflection in every episode so that you can actually go away and make some changes yourself. And then if and when you need my support, you can message me and come join Reboot Camp, and we can talk through this through twice a week and in a WhatsApp group. It's always there for you. Okay, good. Thanks ever so much for joining me today on another episode of Messy Business, and I will see you next time. Lots of love. Bye. Thanks for listening to Messy Business. Make sure you follow or subscribe so you don't miss your next dose of clarity and calm. You'll find me on Instagram at Libby Langley. And when you're ready for deeper support in a space where you can rebuild your business around who you are, you can join me inside Reboot Camp. See you next week for more Messy Business.